The envelope was cream-colored, just a simple cream envelope with my name written in my daughter's handwriting. I remember that detail so vividly, how ordinary it looked. How could something so plain change everything? "Dad, this is for you," Sarah said, placing it on the kitchen counter before quickly leaving the room. There was something in her voice, a slight tremor. I didn't notice it then. God, I wish I had. I stood there alone in our kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd made Sunday pancakes for 18 years, where Sarah took her first steps, where my wife and I had whispered arguments after the kids went to bed, thinking no one could hear us. The envelope just sat there, innocent looking, while the afternoon sun cast long shadows through the blinds. Have you ever had that feeling? That single moment when your body knows something is wrong before your mind catches up? My fingers hesitated, just hovering over that envelope. Something inside me already understood what my conscious mind didn't want to accept. I opened it. 3 pages folded neatly inside. The first sentence is burned into my memory. "Dad, by the time you read this, Mom will already be gone." My hands started trembling. Not shaking, trembling. There's a difference. Shaking is what happens when you're cold. Trembling is what happens when your entire world collapses in on itself while you're standing in your kitchen on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. I had to sit down. The kitchen chair scraped against the tile. That sound, so normal, so everyday, while nothing would ever be normal again. The trembling moved from my hands to my chest. My lungs forgot how to work. The letter blurred through tears. I didn't know I was crying. Words jumped out. Affair. Years. Someone else. Leaving. I'm sorry. Couldn't tell you to your face. How many secrets had been living in my house? Breathing the same air as me? Sitting across from me at dinner? Sleeping beside me? I read it 3 times before I could process what it meant. My wife of 22 years had been having an affair. She was leaving. Today. While I was at work. While I was answering emails and attending meetings and thinking about what we might have for dinner, she was packing her life into suitcases and walking out of our marriage. And my daughter knew. Had known. For how long? The letter didn't say. What hurts more? The betrayal? Or being the last to know about it? I looked down at my wedding ring. 22 years of promises. Circled in gold. Suddenly meaningless. Did you know that physical pain and emotional pain activate the same areas of the brain? In that moment, I swear I could feel my heart physically breaking, splintering like glass inside my chest. The house was so quiet, so still, like it was holding its breath, waiting to see what I would do next. What would you do? If your entire life was revealed as a lie in the space of 3 handwritten pages? If you suddenly realized the story you thought you were living wasn't the real story at all? I still had the envelope in my hand. I turned it over. Empty. Like my future now felt. I got up from that kitchen chair and walked through my house. Everything looked exactly the same and completely different. The family photos on the wall, the stack of mail by the door, her coffee mug in the sink from that morning. When she'd kissed me goodbye, had she already known it was for the last time? Had there been a clue in her eyes that I'd missed? How blind can a person be while still claiming to see? We met in college. Classic story. Biology lab partners randomly assigned. She dropped a beaker on our first day. I helped clean up the mess. I thought it was cute how flustered she got. I thought it was fate that put us at the same lab table. Now I wonder if she broke that beaker on purpose. If the entire beginning of our story was calculated. Does it matter now? 22 years, 2 children, 4 houses, countless moments I thought were real, all erased in an instant, all called into question by 3 pages of truth. Our life had seemed normal, good, even. Not perfect. No marriages, but solid, stable, the kind of relationship other couples envied. "You guys are so good together," they'd say at dinner parties. Were we performing all along? Was I the only one who didn't know it was an act? Sarah was 17. Our son, Michael, 15. Good kids. At least that's what I'd thought. But Sarah had kept the secret, had watched me go about my life, clueless, while knowing her mother was planning to leave. Had that been fair to her? To burden a child with an adult's secrets? The days before the envelope had been ordinary. Monday night we'd watched a movie together as a family. I'd fallen asleep on the couch. She'd woken me up, gentle hand on my shoulder. "Come to bed," she'd said. I'd followed her upstairs like I had thousands of nights before. Had she been thinking about him while lying next to me? Tuesday morning. Breakfast, coffee, the usual rush. "Love you," I'd called as I headed out the door. "Love you too," she'd replied. Just like always. Just like it meant something. I wish I could go back to that moment. Stand in the doorway a second longer. Look at her more carefully. Maybe I would have seen it. The goodbye in her eyes. The lie on her lips. How many times had she said those words while loving someone else? The weekend before, we'd gone to Michael's baseball game. Sat side by side in the bleachers. Cheered together when he hit a double. I'd put my arm around her shoulders. She hadn't pulled away. Were there signs I'd missed? Looking back, there must have been thousands. Late nights at work, new clothes, changed passwords on her phone, the sudden interest in privacy. The growing distance I'd attributed to normal marriage ebbs and flows. It's just a rough patch, I'd told myself. Every marriage has them. But it wasn't a patch. It was an ending writing itself while I wasn't paying attention. In the letter, Sarah wrote that her mother had been unhappy for years. Years. While I thought we were building a life together, she'd been mentally dismantling it, piece by piece. Had I been that oblivious? That self-absorbed? I tried to think of the last time we'd really talked. Not about schedules or kids or bills, but really talked. I couldn't remember. Maybe that was my fault too. But to leave like this? Without a conversation? Without a chance? Silence can be so loud. Standing in our bedroom, my bedroom now, I could hear the clock ticking, the refrigerator humming downstairs, the neighbor's dog barking, life continuing while mine stopped in its tracks. Her closet door was open, half empty now. The bare hangers looked like skeletons. Her dresser drawers partially pulled out. She'd been selective, taken only what mattered, left the gifts I'd given her over the years. On her nightstand, her wedding ring, no note there, just the small circle of gold that had once meant everything. Was she with him now, driving away from our life together, relieved to be free of me at last? The strangest part was that somewhere in the house, there was a photo album full of smiles and moments that I thought were genuine. Vacations, anniversaries, Christmas mornings. Had they all been lies? Can happiness be real and fake at the same time? The sun started to set. I hadn't moved in hours, hadn't called anyone, hadn't cried since those first tears in the kitchen. I was hollow, empty, a shell of a person sitting in a shell of a marriage. What comes after betrayal? After everything you believed in is revealed as fiction. The silence became unbearable. I picked up my phone, stared at it. Who do you call when your life falls apart? My fingers hovered over her name. Muscle memory. Before I remembered she was gone. By choice. Without warning. I called her anyway. Straight to voicemail. Her voice sounded so normal, so her. "Hi, you've reached Ellen. Leave a message and I'll get back to you." Would she? Ever? I didn't leave a message. What could I possibly say? The house felt like a museum of what used to be. Every room, every object, loaded with memories now tainted. The couch where we'd watched movies. The dining table where we'd celebrated birthdays. The backyard where we'd hosted summer barbecues. Friends and family gathered, laughing, while this secret grew between us. How long had it been growing? Sarah's letter hadn't specified when the affair began. Months? Years? Had there been others before this one? I picked up the letter again. Read it a fourth time. A fifth. Looking for clues I'd missed. Sarah's handwriting, usually so neat, was shaky in places, especially when she wrote about how long she'd known. 4 months. 4 months of carrying this knowledge while sitting across from me at dinner. 4 months of watching me kiss her mother goodbye each morning. Oblivious. She didn't want to hurt you like this, Sarah had written, but she couldn't find the courage to tell you face to face. I'm sorry, Dad. I didn't know what to do. I thought you deserved to know. Deserved to know. But not deserved to be told by my wife. Not deserved a conversation. A chance to fight for us. To understand. To process together. Just an empty house and a second-hand goodbye. I heard a car in the driveway. My heart leapt. Was she coming back? Having second thoughts? But it was Sarah, returning from wherever she'd gone after delivering the letter bomb that destroyed our family. She stood in the doorway, uncertain. 17 years old, but looking so much younger suddenly. Scared. Her eyes red-rimmed. Dad? She whispered. What do you say to the child who had to become the messenger? Who had to choose between loyalties, between secrets and truths? I opened my arms, and she collapsed into them. We cried together, the two left behind. I'm sorry, she kept saying. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, I told her, stroking her hair like I did when she was small. It was never your responsibility. But part of me wondered, why hadn't she told me sooner? Why had she protected her mother's secret? Another betrayal nested inside the first. No, that wasn't fair. She was a child caught between parents. The blame wasn't hers. Where's your brother? I finally asked, realizing Michael wasn't with her. Her eyes widened. He's at Jason's house. He doesn't know, Dad. Mom said she'd tell him herself tomorrow. Another blow. My son, still in the dark, still thinking his family would be whole when he came home. When did she leave? I managed to ask. Right after you went to work. She had suitcases in her car already. She hugged me goodbye and said she'd call tonight. Sarah wiped her eyes. She made me promise not to give you the letter until after lunch. She wanted time to get away. Time to get away. Like I was dangerous. Like I would try to stop her. Maybe I would have. Wouldn't that have been my right? To at least try? Did you know where she was going? I asked, my voice hollow. Sarah shook her head. She wouldn't tell me. Just said she needed a fresh start. That you both deserved happiness. Happiness. As if this was a gift she was giving me. Not a grenade tossed into the center of my life. My phone buzzed. A text. Not from her. From my brother. Hey, just checking in. You've been quiet lately. Everything good? Everything good. How do you even begin to answer that? How do you put words to this kind of collapse? I set the phone down without responding. It buzzed again. Another text. Then another. Dad? Sarah's voice broke through my fog. Dad, those are from Mom. She's texting you. I stared at my phone like it was a venomous snake. 3 messages from Ellen. I couldn't bring myself to read them. Not yet. What right did she have to text me after leaving like that? What could she possibly say that would matter now? Do you want me to read them? Sarah offered, her voice small. I handed her the phone, my hands still trembling. When did they stop trembling? Would they ever? Sarah's face changed as she read. She says she's sorry, that she knows it's unforgivable, that she'll explain everything to Michael tomorrow, that she... Sarah paused, looking uncertain. What? I pressed. That she hopes someday you can understand it wasn't about you, that you didn't do anything wrong. Sarah set the phone down like it burned her fingers. She says she just fell out of love. Years ago. Years ago, while I was still very much in love, still planning our future, still thinking we were building something that would last forever. The 4th text came in with a chime that seemed too cheerful for the moment. Sarah glanced at it. She wants to know if you want her to come get her things this weekend while you're at work, or if you'd prefer to pack them up and drop them somewhere. The practicalities of dismantling a life. So efficient. So cold. I can't do this right now, I said, standing up suddenly. I need some air. I walked outside into the evening air. Summer was fading into fall. The neighbor's maple tree was just beginning to turn. Ellen had always loved that tree, had photographed it every autumn. Those photos were still hanging in our hallway. Should I take them down? Burn them? Mail them to wherever she was now? I walked to the end of the driveway, then down the street. No destination in mind. Just away. Away from the house that no longer felt like home. Away from the letter. Away from the texts asking about logistics while my heart was still bleeding out. Mrs. Peterson was watering her roses. She waved, smile bright. "Evening, James. Beautiful night, isn't it?" Did she know? Had Ellen told the neighbors but not me? Or was I the only one in the dark until 3 hours ago? Yes, I managed. Beautiful. How was the world still turning? How were roses still blooming? How was Mrs. Peterson still watering her garden like it was just another ordinary evening? My phone buzzed in my pocket. I ignored it. Another buzz, then another. Someone was calling now. Not texting. Calling. I pulled it out. Ellen's face on my screen. A photo from our anniversary trip last year. Her smile, the ocean behind her. I'd thought she looked happy that day. Had she been faking it? Counting down until she could leave? My thumb hovered over the screen. Accept? Decline? What was the protocol for when your wife abandons you and then calls hours later? I declined. Shoved the phone back in my pocket. It immediately rang again. Anger rose in me for the first time. Hot, cleansing anger that burned through the shock. I answered. What could you possibly have to say to me? Silence. Then her voice, so familiar it hurt. James, I'm sorry. Sorry. I laughed. A harsh sound I didn't recognize. You're sorry. That's supposed to mean something? After 22 years, I get a goodbye note delivered by our teenage daughter and an "I'm sorry" over the phone. I know it's not enough, she said, her voice breaking. I know it's unforgivable, but I couldn't face you. I couldn't bear to see your eyes when I told you. So you took the coward's way out and made our daughter your accomplice. The anger was fully awake now, roaring through me. How dare you put her in that position? How dare you not give me the dignity of a face-to-face goodbye? I tried, she whispered. So many times over the years. I tried to tell you I wasn't happy. You never heard me. You never said the words, I shouted, not caring who heard. Mrs. Peterson had stopped watering, pretending not to listen. You never once said, James, I'm unhappy. James, we need to talk about our marriage. James, I'm thinking of leaving. Not once. Would it have made a difference? She asked. Would you have really heard me? Or would you have dismissed it as a phase, a bad mood, something that would pass? The question hit me like a physical blow. Would I have listened? Would I have really heard her? You'll never know, I said finally, because you never gave me the chance. I hung up, turned off my phone completely, stood in the middle of the sidewalk, aware that I was creating a scene but beyond caring. The walk back to the house felt endless, each step heavier than the last. I didn't want to go back there. Back to the half-empty closets and the letter on the kitchen counter. Back to Sarah's tear-stained face and the questions I couldn't answer. But where else could I go? This was my home, the only home I had. As I approached the driveway, I noticed another car parked behind Sarah's. My brother David's SUV. Sarah must have called him, the family emergency system activating. He met me at the door, his face a mask of concern. James, he said, pulling me into a hug. Sarah called. I came right away. I let him hug me. Couldn't return it. My arms felt like lead weights at my sides. Over his shoulder I could see Sarah in the living room, curled up on the couch, looking small and lost. She's gone, I said, the first time I'd said it out loud. Ellen left me. Saying the words made it real in a way even the letter hadn't. My wife had left me, chosen someone else, ended our marriage with a cream-colored envelope and a second-hand goodbye. David nodded. Sarah told me, I'm so sorry, man. So damn sorry. He led me inside, hand firm on my shoulder. The house felt different with him there, less like a mausoleum, more like a disaster zone being assessed for damage. Have you eaten? He asked. Such a normal question. So incongruent with the moment. I shook my head. The thought of food made me nauseous. I'll order something, he said. already pulling out his phone, taking charge, being the big brother, just like when we were kids. Sarah looked up when I entered the living room. "I called Uncle David," she said unnecessarily. "I didn't know what to do." "It's okay," I told her, sitting beside her on the couch. "You did the right thing." We sat in silence for a moment. The three of us, surrounded by the debris of my marriage. Family photos stared down from the walls. Ellen's reading glasses still on the coffee table. Her cardigan draped over a chair. Pieces of her left behind. "Did she take everything she wanted?" David asked, his voice carefully neutral. I shrugged. "I don't know. I haven't really looked. Just noticed the closet. We should probably check," he said gently. In case she comes back for more things. Better to know what's gone. The inventory of absence. What a task. But he was right. I needed to know what remained and what didn't. We moved through the house like archaeologists, documenting what had vanished. Her jewelry box, gone, except for the pieces I'd given her. Family photo albums, still there. Her grandmother's china, taken. Her laptop, gone. The painting we'd bought on our 10th anniversary, still hanging in the hallway. Each discovery was a fresh cut. She'd been selective, calculated. This wasn't a hasty escape. It was a curated departure. She'd thought about what she wanted from our life together, and what she was willing to leave behind. In our bedroom, my bedroom now, David opened her nightstand drawer. "Empty," he reported. Then he paused, picking something up from the top of the nightstand. "Her wedding ring. James," he said quietly, holding it out to me. I couldn't touch it, couldn't even look at it directly. "Put it somewhere," I said. "I don't care where." He slipped it into his pocket without comment. Sarah appeared in the doorway. "Dad? Uncle David?" "Michael just texted me. He's on his way home." Michael. My son, who still didn't know. "I'll tell him," I said, the words scraping my throat. "It should come from me." "Are you sure?" David asked. No. I'm his father. I'll tell him." We went downstairs to wait, the three of us sitting in the living room, a tableau of aftermath. The food David had ordered arrived. Pizza, my usual favorite. I couldn't even look at it. Sarah picked at a slice, not really eating. David drank a beer in long, thoughtful swallows. My phone, turned back on, sat on the coffee table between us. Silent now. No more texts or calls from Ellen. Where was she now? In a hotel? With him? Had she been planning this escape for months? Years? The sound of a skateboard on the driveway. Michael's preferred mode of transportation. The scrape of it being propped against the garage. Footsteps on the porch. The door opening. "Hey, I'm home." Why is everyone sitting in the dark? And why is Uncle David's car here? Michael's voice, so normal, so unaware of how his world was about to change. I stood up, legs unsteady beneath me. How do you tell your son his mother has left? How do you find words for that kind of betrayal? Michael rounded the corner into the living room, his face changing as he registered our expressions. The uneaten pizza, the silence. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice suddenly younger. "Is everyone okay? Did something happen?" I opened my mouth. No words came out. "Michael," David began, stepping in to save me. "Something's happened. You should sit down." Michael didn't sit. He stood frozen in the doorway, eyes darting between us. "Is it Grandma? Is she okay?" "It's not Grandma," I managed to say. It's about your mom." His face drained of color. "Is she hurt? Was there an accident?" I shook my head. Almost wished it were that simple. An accident. Something outside of our control. Not this deliberate destruction. "Your mom is physically fine," I said carefully. "But she's not here." Confusion crossed his face. "What do you mean? Where is she?" Sarah moved to her brother's side, taking his hand. A gesture so small, so significant. The children united in this moment of revelation. "Mom left," she said softly. "She left us." Michael pulled his hand away. "What are you talking about? Left how? For how long?" I took a deep breath. "She's left our marriage, Michael. She's not coming back, not to live here with us. He stared at me, uncomprehending. Then he laughed, a short, disbelieving sound. That's not funny, Dad. It's not a joke, I said, my voice breaking. I wish it were. The laughter died on his face. But we just had movie night on Monday. She was fine. Everything was fine. Was it? Had it been? Or had we all been acting out parts in a play that was reaching its final scene without my knowledge? She's been unhappy for a long time, I said, repeating Ellen's words from her texts. Words that still felt foreign, impossible. She fell out of love. With you? Michael asked, his voice small. Or with all of us? The question hit me like a physical blow. I had no answer. Ellen had left me, but in doing so, hadn't she also left her children? Changed their lives forever? Broken their sense of security? I don't know, I admitted. She says she's going to talk to you tomorrow. Explain things herself. Michael's face hardened. I don't want to talk to her. She doesn't get to explain. Not after this. Sarah squeezed his arm. Mikey, don't say that. She's still our mom. Is she? He snapped. Moms don't just leave. Not like this. David stepped forward. Why don't we all sit down? Process this together. It's a lot to take in. Michael shook his head. I don't want to sit down. I don't want to process anything. I want to know where she is. I want to know who she's with. The question I'd been avoiding. The one I couldn't bear to say aloud. She's with someone else, Sarah said quietly. That's what the letter said. Michael's face crumpled. She's cheating on Dad? Yes, I said, the word acid in my mouth, apparently for some time now. He turned away suddenly, his fist connecting with the wall. Not hard enough to break through, but hard enough to make us all jump. How could she do this? How could she just leave? I moved to him, put my hand on his shoulder. He shrugged it off. Don't, he said. Just don't. The rejection stung, but I understood it. His world was shattering, just as mine had hours ago. He needed space to let it break. I'm going to my room, he announced, already heading for the stairs. Don't follow me. I need to be alone. We let him go. What else could we do? Force him to sit with us in this awful new reality? Make him pretend he was handling it better than he was? Should I go after him? Sarah asked once he was upstairs. The sound of his bedroom door slamming echoed through the house. Give him some time, David advised. This is a lot to process. For all of you. I sank back onto the couch, suddenly exhausted. The adrenaline that had carried me through the last few hours was fading, leaving behind a bone-deep weariness that seemed to press me down into the cushions. What happens now? Sarah asked, looking between David and me. What do we do now? Such a simple question, such an impossible one to answer. We take it one day at a time, David said, when I couldn't find words. 1 hour at a time if we need to. My phone buzzed on the coffee table. Another text from Ellen. I picked it up, read it silently. I'll be at the Starbucks near Michael's school at 10 a.m. tomorrow if he wants to talk. Please don't come with him. I think it's better if I speak to him alone first. Alone first. As if there would be a later conversation with me. As if we would eventually sit down like rational adults and discuss the dismantling of our family. As if this were a temporary separation, not a complete abandonment. I handed the phone to Sarah. She wants to meet Michael tomorrow morning. Sarah read the text, her expression unreadable. Are you going to tell him? Of course, I said. It's his choice whether to go or not. And if he doesn't want to? I shrugged. Then he doesn't go. She lost the right to demand anything when she left the way she did. David gave me a careful look. James, I know you're hurt, and you have every right to be, but try not to put the kids in the middle. This is between you and Ellen. She put them in the middle. I snapped. She made Sarah her messenger. She left without saying goodbye to Michael. She created this situation, not me. I know, he said, hands raised in surrender. I'm just saying, for the kids' sake, try to keep the worst of it between you two. He was right, of course. The Parent Handbook, page 1, chapter 1. Don't drag the children into your marital problems. But Ellen had already broken that rule, hadn't she? She'd already made them participants in her escape. Upstairs, music began blasting from Michael's room. Angry music, bass thumping through the ceiling. His form of therapy, his way of drowning out the thoughts that must be racing through his head. I should check on him, I said, starting to stand. David shook his head. Let him be for now. Let him process this in his own way. What if he does something stupid? What if he... Michael's a good kid, David interrupted. He's angry, and he has every right to be, but he's not destructive. Let him blast his music and punch his pillow if that's what he needs. The music got louder, then louder still. The walls seemed to vibrate with it, with his pain, his anger, his confusion. I checked my watch. 8:47 p.m. Just 9 hours ago, I'd been at my desk at work, thinking about the presentation I needed to finish by Friday. 9 hours ago, my life had still made sense, had still had a shape I recognized. Now I was sitting in a house that no longer felt like mine, listening to my son's anger vibrate through the walls, wondering how we would all survive this earthquake. Morning came. I hadn't slept, just stared at the ceiling all night, replaying every moment of my marriage, looking for the signs I'd missed, the clues that should have warned me this was coming. David had stayed over, sleeping on the couch. I could hear him moving around downstairs, the coffee maker gurgling. Such a normal sound, deceptively normal. I showered and dressed mechanically, put on my wedding ring without thinking, then stared at it on my finger. Should I take it off? Was I supposed to do that right away? Was there a protocol for this situation that I didn't know about? I left it on. One more day wouldn't matter. Michael's door was still closed when I went downstairs. Sarah was at the kitchen table, eyes red-rimmed from crying or lack of sleep. Maybe both. She looked up when I entered. Did you sleep at all? She asked. I shook my head. Did you? A little. I kept checking my phone. Mom texted me at 2 a.m. She pushed her phone across the table to me. The message was brief. I'm so sorry for putting you in the middle of this, Sarah. I never meant for any of it to happen this way. I love you. Please don't hate me. Too late for that, I thought bitterly. But I kept it to myself. Have you responded? Sarah shook her head. I don't know what to say to her. David handed me a cup of coffee. You don't have to say anything right now. Not until you're ready. I checked my own phone. No new messages from Ellen. Just the one from last night about meeting Michael. It's 9:15, I said. Should I wake him up? Tell him about the meeting? Let him sleep, Sarah suggested. He was up late. I heard him pacing until at least 3 a.m. But if he wants to meet her, then he can text her and reschedule, David said firmly. He gets to set the terms now, not Ellen. The logic of the aftermath. The rules that applied now that everything was broken. I sipped my coffee, tasting nothing. I have to call work, I realized suddenly. Tell them I won't be in today. Already done, David said. I called your boss this morning. Told him there was a family emergency. He said to take all the time you need. A family emergency. Such a benign term for this collapse. This betrayal. Thank you, I said, grateful beyond words for my brother's presence, his quiet efficiency, his steadiness while I was still reeling. What else do we need to do today? Sarah asked, practical even in her pain. I had no answer. What did you do the day after your life imploded? Was there a checklist somewhere? A guide for the newly abandoned? Nothing, David said firmly. Today is just about breathing, about being together. The practical stuff can wait. The sound of a door opening upstairs, heavy footsteps in the hallway, Michael appearing in the kitchen doorway, still in yesterday's clothes, his face pale and set. Morning, I said, trying for normal and failing utterly. He nodded once, acknowledgement without warmth. Is there coffee? David poured him a cup, handed it over. How are you holding up, buddy? Michael's laugh was harsh, bitter, nothing like his usual easy chuckle. How do you think? Fair enough, David conceded. Michael took a long swallow of coffee, grimacing at the heat. Mom texted me. he said finally. About meeting this morning. We all froze, waiting. I told her no. He set the cup down with a thud. I told her I don't want to see her. Not today. Maybe not ever. Sarah reached for his hand. Mikey. He pulled away. Don't defend her. She left us, Sarah. She just left. Like we meant nothing. She loves you, I said automatically, the words feeling strange in my mouth. Did she? Could she love her children and still devastate their lives like this? No, she doesn't, Michael said flatly. If she loved us, she would have stayed, or at least said goodbye to our faces. I had no counter-argument, no defense of Ellen's actions. It's okay to be angry, I said instead. It's normal to feel that way. I'm not angry, he said, his voice terrifyingly calm. I'm done. She's dead to me. The words hung in the air, heavy and final. I should correct him. Should urge forgiveness, or at least openness to reconciliation with his mother. That's what a good father would do, right? But I couldn't form the words. Couldn't be that selfless. Not yet. She's still your mother, David said gently. And she does love you, even if her actions don't show it right now. Actions speak louder than words, Michael quoted. Isn't that what you always say, Dad? Well, her actions are pretty fucking clear. I didn't correct his language. Didn't have the energy or the moral high ground to do so. My phone buzzed. Ellen. Again. I ignored it. What did she say when you told her no? Sarah asked Michael. He shrugged. She got all dramatic. Said she understood I was angry but hoped I'd change my mind. Said she needed to explain things to me. Said she still wants to be part of my life. His voice dripped with contempt. Like that's even possible now. Another buzz from my phone. Then Sarah's phone. Then Michael's. All at once. What the hell? David muttered. I looked at my screen. A text from Ellen. Sent to all three of us. I know you're all angry and hurt. You have every right to be. But there's something you need to know. Something I should have told you all a long time ago. Please meet me at the house at noon today. All of you. It's important. Sarah and Michael were reading the same message on their phones. 3 identical texts sent simultaneously. What does she mean? Sarah asked, looking up at me. What does she need to tell us? I shook my head. I have no idea. It's just manipulation, Michael said dismissively. She wants to see us, so she's making up some big secret to lure us in. It did sound like manipulation. A ploy to get us to meet with her, to ease her guilt, perhaps, to make herself feel better about her choices. But what if it wasn't? What if there really was something we needed to know? Are you going to go? Sarah asked me directly. I looked down at my wedding ring, still on my finger. Still a lie now. I don't know. I'm not going, Michael said firmly. Nothing she says could matter now. I think I want to hear her out, Sarah said quietly. Even if it's just closure. Even if it's just to say goodbye properly. Michael made a disgusted noise. She doesn't deserve a proper goodbye. She doesn't deserve anything from us. I didn't disagree. But curiosity was creeping in through the edges of my anger, my hurt. What could she possibly have to tell us that was so important? What secret had been living in our house alongside her growing distance, her hidden affair? I'll go with you, I told Sarah. If you want to meet her, I'll be there with you. She nodded, grateful. Thank you. Michael stood up abruptly. You're both idiots if you go. She's just playing you. Again. He stalked out of the kitchen, back upstairs. The sound of his bedroom door slamming punctuated his exit. David looked at me, one eyebrow raised. What do you think this is about? I shook my head. I have no idea. But I'm not letting Sarah face it alone. 3 hours until noon. 3 hours to prepare for whatever revelation Ellen thought was so important it needed to be delivered in person, after everything else had been abandoned to letters and texts. What could possibly matter now? What could possibly change anything about the devastation she'd left behind? Noon approached with agonizing slowness. I paced the house, checking my watch every few minutes. Sarah sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone without really seeing it. David made sandwiches no one would eat, Michael remained locked in his room, music blasting intermittently. At 11:45, I knocked on Michael's door. No answer. I knocked again. Louder. "What?" he finally shouted over the music. "Sarah and I are leaving in 10 minutes. I called through the door. "Last chance if you want to come." "Not interested," he yelled back. I hesitated, hand on the doorknob. Should I push harder? Insist he come with us? But what right did I have to force him into a confrontation he wasn't ready for? "Okay," I said finally. "We'll tell you what happens." No response. Just the music, turned up louder. Downstairs, Sarah was putting on her jacket. "Is he coming?" she asked, though she clearly knew the answer. I shook my head. "It's his choice." "I'll stay here with him," David offered. "Make sure he's okay." I nodded, grateful again for my brother's steady presence. "Thank you." The drive to our house, my house now, was silent. Sarah stared out the window, lost in thought. I gripped the steering wheel too tightly, knuckles white. What would Ellen say? What could possibly explain or justify what she'd done? Her car was already in the driveway when we arrived. A silver Volvo we'd bought together 3 years ago. It looked exactly the same as the last time I'd seen it. Unchanged, while everything else had transformed beyond recognition. "Are you ready for this?" I asked Sarah as we sat in my parked car staring at the house. She took a deep breath. "No, but let's do it anyway." We walked up to the door together. Should I knock? Use my key? This strange new protocol of returning to what had been my home just yesterday, but now felt like Ellen's territory. Her stage for whatever scene she wanted to play out. I used my key. It was still my house, after all. My name on the mortgage. My life still inside, even if hers had been partially removed. She was sitting at the kitchen table, hair pulled back, face pale, eyes red-rimmed. She looked up when we entered, relief washing over her face. "You came," she said, standing. "Thank you. I wasn't sure you would." "Michael isn't coming," Sarah said, her voice cooler than I'd ever heard it. Ellen nodded, pain crossing her features. "I understand. I wouldn't want to see me either, if I were him." The three of us stood there awkwardly. A broken triangle, the family geometry permanently altered. "You said you had something to tell us," I prompted, not willing to prolong this any more than necessary. "Something important." Ellen nodded, gesturing to the table. "Please, sit down." We sat. The kitchen table where we'd eaten thousands of meals as a family, where we'd helped with homework and played board games and celebrated birthdays. Now the sight of whatever revelation Ellen thought was worth delivering in person. "I don't know how to say this," she began, her hands twisting together on the table. "I've practiced all morning and I still don't know how to find the words." "Just say it," I said, my patience already thin. "After everything else, you owe us that much at least." She nodded, took a deep breath. "I'm sick," she said finally. "I have cancer. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. They found it 3 months ago." The words didn't make sense at first. Didn't compute. Cancer? Ellen? But she looked fine. Tired, yes. Thinner, perhaps. But not sick. Not dying. "That's not funny," Sarah said, her voice shaking. "That's a horrible thing to lie about." "I'm not lying," Ellen said quietly. "I wish I were. The doctors gave me 6 months, maybe a year with aggressive treatment." I stared at her, searching for signs of deception, finding none. "Why didn't you tell us?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "Why would you keep that from us?" "I was going to," she said. "I tried so many times, but then I'd look at you all, living your lives, planning futures I wouldn't be part of, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't bear to see the grief in your eyes, to watch you all start mourning me while I was still here." Sarah was crying now, silent tears tracking down her cheeks. "So you left instead? That doesn't make any sense, Mom. If you're dying, why wouldn't you want to spend every moment with us?" Ellen reached for her hand. Sarah didn't pull away. "Because I didn't want my dying to define our last months together. I didn't want every conversation, every moment, to be shadowed by my illness." by what was coming. So the affair, I began, trying to fit this new piece into the broken puzzle of our life. There is no affair, Ellen said, meeting my eyes directly for the first time. There never was. I made it up. The words hung in the air between us. Impossible. Unbelievable. You made it up, I repeated. You let us believe. You made Sarah tell me that you were leaving me for someone else. Why would you do that? Because I thought it would be easier, she whispered. Easier for you to hate me than to watch me die. Easier to be angry than devastated. Easier to move on if you thought I'd betrayed you, not been taken from you. The logic was so twisted, so backward, I couldn't wrap my mind around it. You thought abandoning us was kinder than letting us support you through your illness. You thought lying to your children was better than the truth? I never said it was rational, she admitted. When they first told me the diagnosis, I couldn't think straight. All I could see was the grief I was about to cause you all, the pain you would go through watching me deteriorate. I panicked. I made a terrible decision. Where have you been staying? Sarah asked. If there's no other man. With my sister, Ellen said. In her guest room. She's the only one who knows the truth. She thought I was wrong to lie to you, for what it's worth. She was right, I said, anger rising again, but different now. Not the anger of betrayal, but of being robbed of choice, of time. We deserved to know, Ellen. We had a right to make our own decisions about how to handle this. Together. She nodded, tears filling her eyes. I know. I see that now. That's why I came back. To tell you the truth. To ask for your forgiveness, even though I don't deserve it. To spend whatever time I have left with my family, if you'll let me. Sarah was fully crying now, shoulders shaking. Of course we'll let you. You're my mom. I need you. Ellen pulled her into a hug, her own tears falling now. I'm so sorry, sweetheart. So sorry for hurting you, for lying to you. I thought I was protecting you, but I was just being a coward. I sat there, watching them, my emotions a tangled mess, relief that there had been no affair, no betrayal of our vows, rage that she had lied, had put us through this unnecessary pain, terror at the reality of her diagnosis, grief for the future we would never have. James, Ellen said, looking at me over Sarah's shoulder, can you ever forgive me? Could I? Could I set aside the hell of the past 24 hours? The thoughts that had tortured me all night? The pain she had deliberately inflicted, thinking it was somehow merciful? I don't know, I said honestly. I need time. She nodded, acceptance in her eyes. I understand. I'll give you all the time you need. A sad smile crossed her lips, though I don't have as much to give as I'd like. The irony wasn't lost on me. Time, the very thing she was running out of, was what I needed to process this reversal, this new reality that was simultaneously better and worse than what I'd believed. What about Michael? Sarah asked suddenly, pulling back from her mother's embrace. He's so angry. He thinks you abandoned us. He needs to know the truth. Ellen's face fell. Will he even see me? He wouldn't come today. He'll see you when he knows why, I said, surprising myself with the certainty in my voice. He's hurt, not heartless. We should go tell him now, Sarah said, standing up. Right now. Ellen hesitated. Maybe it would be better if you told him first. Prepared him. I don't want to ambush him with this. I shook my head. No more messengers. No more secondhand truths. We go together, and you tell him yourself, face to face, like you should have told all of us from the beginning. She nodded, accepting the rebuke. You're right. The three of us moved toward the door, this strange new unit. Not the family we had been yesterday, but not the shattered pieces of this morning either. Something in between, something held together by the awful truth, by the limited time we now knew we had. As Ellen reached for her purse, I noticed her hand trembling slightly. A symptom, a sign of the disease already at work inside her, or just the tremor of emotion, of fear at facing her son's anger. Wait, I said, as she reached for the door. Before we go, are you in pain? Are you getting treatment? What's the plan? Yes to treatment, she said. I started chemo last month. That's where I was going on those late nights you thought. She trailed off, not finishing the thought. The pain comes and goes. It's manageable for now. For now. 2 words that contained so much dread, so much foreboding. We'll face this together, I found myself saying. Whatever happens next, whatever time we have, together. Ellen's eyes filled with fresh tears. That's all I want, she whispered. That's all I've ever wanted. We walked out to our separate cars, the physical divide still necessary, the emotional one beginning to heal. As I watched her slide into the driver's seat, I was struck by how ordinary she looked, how impossible it seemed that something deadly was growing inside her, stealing her future, stealing our future together. But isn't that always how it is? Death hiding in plain sight, biding its time, while we make plans and believe in forevers that were never promised to us. The drive back to David's house was surreal. Ellen followed behind us in her Volvo, a silver shadow in my rearview mirror. Sarah sat beside me, still wiping away occasional tears. Do you think Michael will forgive her? She asked, breaking the silence. I considered the question carefully. My son's anger this morning had been so absolute, so final, but it had been based on a lie. A terrible, misguided lie, but a lie nonetheless. I think he'll be angry that she lied, I said finally. But yes, I think he'll forgive her, when he understands why. Sarah nodded, seemingly satisfied with my answer. And you? Will you forgive her? A harder question, one I wasn't sure I had an answer for yet. I'm trying, I said honestly. It's complicated, because you thought she was leaving you for someone else, Sarah said, understanding in her voice. That must have been awful. Awful didn't begin to cover it. The complete collapse of trust, the questioning of every memory, the humiliation of being left behind. It was, I acknowledged. But this is worse in its own way. Because now, instead of losing my wife to another man, a loss that, while devastating, I might eventually recover from, I was losing her to death. Inescapable, final. We pulled into David's driveway, Ellen parking behind us. The 3 of us sat in our respective cars for a moment, gathering courage for what came next, for Michael's reaction. For the beginning of this new chapter that none of us had chosen. David must have been watching for us because the front door opened as we approached. His expression was cautious, confused at the sight of Ellen with us. Everything okay? He asked, his eyes moving between us. We need to talk to Michael, I said. All of us. Ellen has something to tell him. Understanding dawned on David's face. Not the full truth, but the recognition that something significant had changed. He's still upstairs, he said, stepping aside to let us in. Still pretty angry. I led the way upstairs, Ellen behind me, Sarah bringing up the rear. We paused outside Michael's door. The music had stopped, but there was no sound from within. I knocked. Michael, it's Dad. Mom's here. We need to talk to you. I told you I don't want to see her. His voice came through the door, hard and flat. It's important, I insisted. More important than you know. Please just open the door. A long silence, then the sound of footsteps. The door opening just enough for Michael to glare out at us, at Ellen. What? He demanded. Come to make more excuses? Ellen stepped forward. No, Michael. No more excuses. Just the truth. Finally. Something in her voice, a catch, a vulnerability, made him pause. He studied her face, then mine. What's going on? Can we come in? I asked. This isn't a hallway conversation. He hesitated, then stepped back, opening the door wider. We filed in. This procession of the wounded, the deceived, the dying. Michael sat on his bed, arms crossed defensively. The 3 of us stood awkwardly, Ellen at the center. Michael, she began, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. I lied to you, to all of you. There is no other man. There never was. He frowned, confusion replacing anger. Then why did you leave? Because I'm sick, she said simply. I have stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The doctors gave me 6 months to a year. Michael's face went blank with shock, completely expressionless, as if his brain had simply shut down in the face of this information. What? He finally managed. Ellen repeated herself, adding details this time. The diagnosis, the prognosis, the treatment she'd already begun, the lies she'd told, thinking it would somehow be easier for us all. As she spoke, Michael's expression shifted from blank shock to disbelief to a dawning horror. You're dying? He asked, his voice suddenly childlike. You're really dying? Ellen nodded, tears spilling over. I'm so sorry, Michael, for lying, for hurting you. I thought I was protecting you somehow. I was wrong. The anger returned to his face, but transformed now. You let me think you abandoned us. You let me hate you. How could you do that? I wasn't thinking clearly, Ellen admitted. I was scared, terrified of causing you pain. So you caused a different kind of pain instead? His voice rose. How is that better? It's not, she acknowledged. It was selfish and wrong, and I will regret it for the rest of my life. The phrase hung in the air between us all, heavy with its new, shortened meaning. Michael stood suddenly, pacing the small confines of his room. I don't understand. He stopped, turning to face her. You're really sick? This isn't another lie? Ellen shook her head. It's the truth. I promise you. No more lies. He stared at her for a long moment, searching her face. Then, with a sound that was half sob, half growl, he threw himself at her, not in anger, but in desperate embrace. His arms wrapped around her so tightly it seemed he might break her. No, he said into her shoulder. No, you can't be sick. You can't be dying. I won't let you. Ellen held him, her own tears flowing freely now. I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. I watched them, my son and my wife, clinging to each other in the face of this terrible truth. Sarah moved to join them, wrapping her arms around them both, a family circle, broken and reforming around this new reality. I stood apart, still processing, still reconciling the betrayal I'd believed in with this actual truth that was somehow both better and infinitely worse. Ellen looked up at me over the children's shoulders, her eyes asking a question I wasn't ready to answer. Could I join them? Could I step back into the circle of our family, knowing what lay ahead, knowing the pain that was coming? David appeared in the doorway behind me, his expression solemn. He'd clearly overheard enough to understand. James, he said quietly, this is the moment, right here. This is the time you have. He was right. Whatever anger I still felt, whatever betrayal still echoed in my heart, it paled against the ticking clock of Ellen's illness, against the limited days we now had together. I moved forward, joining the embrace, my arms encircling all three of them, my children, my wife, my family, altered but not destroyed, changed but still whole, at least for now. We stood there together, the four of us, crying and holding on, mourning what was coming while clinging to what remained, to the time we still had. How long? 6 months? A year if we were lucky? It wasn't enough. It could never be enough, but it was what we had, and we would use it well. Later, after Michael had calmed down, after Ellen had answered all the questions we could think to ask, after David had tactfully left us alone to process together, we sat in the living room, the four of us, a family again, if only for a while. I want to come home, Ellen said, looking at me directly. If you'll have me. Of course, I said without hesitation. The anger hadn't disappeared entirely. I wasn't a saint, but it had been overwhelmed by the much larger emotion of imminent loss, of precious time ticking away. This is your home. We're your family. Even after what I did? She asked, doubt in her eyes. The lie I told? It was a terrible lie, I acknowledged. But you're still my wife, for better or worse, in sickness and in health. I meant those vows. So did I, she whispered. We began planning, there in that living room. How to make the most of whatever time remained. How to balance treatment with living. How to create memories that would have to last a lifetime for those of us left behind. The shadow of what was coming hung over every word, every plan. But there was light too. The light of truth finally spoken. Of time recognized as precious. Of love that, despite everything, still remained. As night fell, as Sarah and Michael finally went upstairs to their rooms, emotionally exhausted, Ellen and I sat alone on the couch, her hand in mine, her head on my shoulder. "I'm still angry," I admitted in the darkness. "Part of me is still hurt by what you did." "I know," she said. "You have every right to be. But I love you more than I'm angry," I continued. "I always have. And whatever time we have left, whether it's 6 months or 6 years, I want to spend it together, not wasting a single day on anger or resentment." She squeezed my hand, a gesture so familiar it made my heart ache. "That's more than I deserve," she said softly, "but I'll take it," gratefully. We sat in silence for a while, the ticking of the clock on the mantel the only sound. Each tick a second gone, a second we couldn't get back. "Promise me something," I said finally. "Anything," she replied. "No more lies. No more trying to protect me from the truth. Whatever happens next, the good days and the bad, the pain, all of it, we face it together. Honestly, completely. I promise," she said, her voice steady despite the tears I could feel dampening my shoulder. "No more secrets. No more lies. Just us. Together. Until the end. Until the end." Words that had meant one thing in our wedding vows, so many years ago. Words that now carried a weight, a specificity we'd never imagined then. But isn't that true for everyone? None of us knows how much time we have. The only difference was that now we knew. Now we could see the shape of our remaining days together. Now we could make them count. "I love you," I whispered into the darkness. "I have always loved you. I will always love you." Words that would have to last forever, in a forever that was suddenly, terribly finite. "I love you too," she replied, more than I ever found the words to say. Outside, the stars wheeled overhead, time passing, as it always does. Relentless, unstoppable. But for that moment, on that night, we held each other close and pretended we had all the time in the world. That was 6 months ago. Today I sit beside her hospital bed, watching her chest rise and fall in the shallow rhythm that has become familiar. The doctors say it won't be long now. Days, maybe. Hours, possibly. The end of our time together, approaching with terrible certainty. Sarah and Michael are here too, keeping vigil. They've been remarkable through all of this. Strong in ways no children should have to be. Present in ways that make me achingly proud, even through the grief. These last months have been both the hardest and most precious of our lives. We've lived more fully, more intentionally, than in all the years before. Every moment weighted with significance. Every conversation, every touch, every shared silence. All of it stored away in the vault of memory, to be withdrawn and examined in the lonely years ahead. There have been dark days. Days of pain and fear and rage at the unfairness of it all. Days when Ellen couldn't get out of bed, when the treatments made her sicker than the disease. Days when I would lock myself in the bathroom and cry silently, not wanting her to see my breaking heart. But there have been beautiful days too. Days of laughter and love and perfect ordinary moments that suddenly seemed extraordinary. Sunsets watched together on the back porch. Family dinners where we told old stories and made new memories. Quiet afternoons when she would sleep against my shoulder, and I would memorize the weight of her, the scent of her hair, the sound of her breathing. We renewed our vows on our anniversary, just the 4 of us in our living room. Simple words, profound meaning. A reaffirmation of love that no longer had the luxury of time, but had gained something else, an acute awareness of its own preciousness. Ellen stirs now, her eyes flickering open. Recognition dawns slowly, then a smile that still takes my breath away, even with her face so thin, so pale. "You're here," she whispers. Always, I reply, taking her hand. We all are. Sarah and Michael move closer to the bed, their faces brave masks barely hiding their breaking hearts. My loves, Ellen says, looking at each of us. My whole world. Words are harder for her now. Each one costs energy she has little of. But she insisted 2 days ago when she was stronger that there were things she needed to say, things we needed to hear. Listen, she says now, her voice faint but determined. Remember what matters. Not the fights, not the mistakes, not the wrong turns. She pauses, gathering strength. Remember the love. It was always the love. Nothing else. I nod, unable to speak past the knot in my throat. The envelope, she continues, her gaze finding mine. Remember? I do. The cream-colored envelope that started this chapter of our story, that revealed a lie that led us to a deeper truth, that began the countdown of our remaining days together. Yes, I managed to say. I remember. In my drawer, she says. Top right. One for each of you. Sarah looks at me, questioning. I nod, and she goes to the dresser against the wall, opens the top right drawer, returns with 3 cream-colored envelopes, just like the one from 6 months ago, but these with different names written on them. Mine, Sarah's, Michael's. Not yet, Ellen says, seeing us about to open them. After. When you're ready. After. The word hangs in the air between us. After she's gone. After this vigil ends. After our family of 4 becomes 3. Mom. Michael starts, his voice breaking. I know, baby, she says. I know. It's not fair. It's not enough time. It could never be enough time, Sarah says, tears streaming down her face. Ellen smiles, a smile so full of love it seems impossible it could come from someone so close to leaving us. But we used it well, didn't we? These months. This time we had. We did, I confirm. Every day. Every hour. She nods, satisfied. Her eyes drift closed again, the conversation exhausting what little energy she has left. But her hand remains in mine, a light pressure that says she's still with us, still here, at least for now. The 3 of us sit in silence, watching her sleep, thinking about the envelopes in our laps, about what comes next, about how we will survive in a world without her. Have you ever had to say goodbye to someone you love? Have you ever had to watch them slip away, powerless to stop it? Have you ever had to reimagine your entire future because the person who was supposed to share it with you is leaving too soon? If you have, then you know. You know the exquisite pain of it, the terrible beauty, the way time seems to stretch and compress all at once, the way your heart can break and keep beating anyway. If you haven't, I pray you never do. But I know, statistically, inevitably, that many of you will. That's the cruel math of love and loss. The more deeply you love, the more profoundly you will grieve. But here's what I've learned in these past 6 months. Here's the truth I need to share with you. The grief is worth it. The pain is the price of love. And love, real love, honest love, even love with an expiration date, is always, always worth it. When Ellen placed that first envelope in my hand 6 months ago, I thought my world was ending. And in a way, it was. But another world was beginning too. A world of painful truth, of precious time, of love with new depth and urgency. I don't know what's in these new envelopes. I don't know what final words Ellen has chosen to leave us with. But I know they will be words of love, words to carry us forward, words to remind us that even when she's gone, the love remains. And that's what I want you to remember too. Whoever you are, wherever you're listening from, love remains. Beyond betrayal, beyond mistakes, beyond even death itself. Love remains. If there's someone in your life you haven't told lately how much they mean to you, tell them. If there's a rift that needs healing, heal it. If there's time you're wasting, stop wasting it. None of us knows how much time we have. None of us is guaranteed tomorrow. All we have is this moment, this breath, this chance to love and be loved in return. Ellen is stirring again, her eyes opening to find mine. "James," she whispers, my name a prayer on her lips. "I'm here," I say, leaning closer. "It was worth it," she says, the words so faint I have to strain to hear them. "Every moment, even knowing how it ends, I'd choose you again, choose us again, every time." I press my forehead to hers, my tears falling onto her cheeks. "Me too," I whisper back. "Every time, every life." She smiles, a smile of such peace, such acceptance, that it breaks and heals my heart in the same moment. "Remember me," she says, "but live. Promise me you'll live." "I promise," I say, meaning it despite not knowing how I'll keep that promise. How any of us will. Her eyes drift closed again. Her breathing steadies into sleep. The three of us remain, holding vigil, holding on to every remaining moment with the fierce desperation of those who know how precious time truly is. And so we wait, and watch, and love, for as long as we have left together, for as long as it takes. What would you do if you knew exactly how much time you had left with someone you love? Would you waste a single moment on anger or resentment? Would you leave anything important unsaid? Would you forget, even for an instant, how precious each breath, each heartbeat, each shared moment truly is? Leave a word in the comments that describes what this story awakened in you. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Remember that nothing is guaranteed except this moment, right now. And if you want to hear what was in those envelopes, what final words Ellen left for her family, write part 2 in the comments. Some stories don't end when we think they do. Some journeys continue, even after goodbye, because love remains, always. In the end, only love remains.